Welcome back to the dark side.
Like and subscribe.
I used to work as a direct care aide. In 9 years, I dealt with dementia, aggression, confusion, even the occasional violent outburst. But there's one house I only worked in once, just one overnight shift. The client was a 65-year-old woman named Martha. She had a developmental disability along with dementia. Her daughter Colleen worked overnight shifts and needed someone medically experienced to stay with her mom at night. I already worked with 2 other women with developmental disabilities, so I wasn't new to this, or at least I thought I wasn't. Colleen introduced us around 9 p.m. Martha gave me a small smile before Colleen helped her upstairs to bed. Before leaving, Colleen warned me that her mother sometimes wandered at night. "She'll walk around confused," she told me. "It's not sleepwalking, just guide her back to her room." It sounded manageable. After Colleen left, I sat in the living room watching TV. Overnight care jobs are usually quiet, mostly just being present. About an hour later, I heard footsteps upstairs, slow, dragging. I walked to the bottom of the stairs and called up, "Martha, do you need anything?" No response. The footsteps slowly retreated down the hallway. A door shut. I assumed she'd just gotten up for the bathroom. Another hour passed. I went into the kitchen to grab the sandwich I'd brought with me. When I turned around with my plate, I nearly dropped it. Martha was standing in the kitchen doorway. I hadn't heard her come downstairs. The plate slipped from my hands and shattered across the tile. The crash echoed through the house, but she didn't react. She just stared at me. Then suddenly, she started yelling, "Who are you?" Her voice was sharp, panicked. I calmly reminded her who I was and that Colleen had hired me to stay overnight. "I don't know you," she kept shouting. It took a few minutes, but eventually she seemed to settle. I guided her upstairs and gave her a glass of water along with some melatonin Colleen had left out for nights like this. I made sure she swallowed it before leaving the room. After a few hours of quiet, exhaustion hit me hard. I had worked another shift earlier that day and was running on very little sleep. Colleen had told me I could use the spare bedroom upstairs if I needed to rest. I hesitated, but the house was silent. I set a 1-hour alarm and laid down fully dressed. I must have fallen asleep instantly, because what woke me up wasn't subtle. Slam! 2 seconds later, slam, a metallic sound, repeating. Something downstairs was being opened and shut over and over again. I jumped out of bed and rushed toward the stairs. The noise was coming from the kitchen. When I reached the bottom and looked in, my stomach dropped. Martha was standing in front of the oven in complete darkness. She was opening it and slamming it shut, over and over. The only light in the room was faint streetlight coming through the window, so I could only see her silhouette. "Martha!" I called out loudly. She froze, then slowly turned her head toward me. She closed the oven one final time and started walking toward the stairs, toward me. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice noticeably less confident now. She didn't answer. She walked right past me and went upstairs. I followed behind her. When she reached her bedroom, she slammed the door shut so hard it rattled the frame. I knocked gently. "Martha, are you all right?" No response. I opened the door slightly. She was standing beside her bed, facing the wall, completely still. It looked like something straight out of a horror movie. I carefully guided her back into bed and tucked her in. "Good night, Martha," I said quietly before shutting the door. I went back to the spare room and told myself I wouldn't fall asleep again. But I did. The next time I woke up, it was still pitch black. My alarm hadn't gone off yet. I didn't know what woke me at first. Then I heard it. A soft sound coming from inside the closet. I slowly turned my head. The closet door was slightly open, and behind it, I could see the outline of a head, watching me. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it. "Martha," I whispered. No answer. I said her name again. The closet door slowly creaked open. She stepped out. "Who are you?" she demanded. She started walking toward the bed. I reached for the lamp beside me and finally got it to switch on. That's when I saw the knife in her hand, a large kitchen knife. Everything changed in that moment. "Martha, put the knife down," I shouted. She screamed back at me, repeating that she didn't know who I was. She kept getting closer. I wasn't going to try reasoning with someone holding a weapon who didn't recognize me. I quickly mapped out the only escape path, past her. When she lifted the knife slightly, I jumped off the far side of the bed and ran. She swung at the air as I passed. It was slow, weak, but intentional. That was enough. I ran downstairs, grabbed my shoes, and rushed outside. Instead of calling 911, I called Colleen. She had specifically told me to contact her first if there was a problem. She started yelling at me not to leave her mother alone. "I didn't call the police," I told her. She came at me with a knife. Colleen had to leave work and drive home. I stayed outside, watching the house to make sure Martha didn't wander out. Colleen got home about 30 minutes later. I didn't go back inside until she did. When she went upstairs to check on her mom, I waited at the bottom of the stairs. A few minutes later, she called down to me, "Martha's asleep." Like nothing had happened. Colleen didn't fully believe me at first. I could see it in her face, until she came back downstairs holding something in her hand, the knife. She had found it on Martha's nightstand, the same knife she'd been holding in the dark. I never went back. And for a long time, I tried to convince myself it was just the dementia, just confusion, just another symptom. But here's the part that still bothers me. When I woke up and saw her in that closet, she wasn't wandering. She wasn't lost. She wasn't searching for anything. She was standing completely still, watching me. And she had already gone downstairs to get the knife, which means she knew exactly where it was. To this day, I don't know what woke me up first, the sound from the closet, or the feeling that she'd been standing there for a while, just waiting.
Like and subscribe.
It was my first day working for a small plumbing company. There were only 5 of us, and the owner, Dave, personally assigned every job. When he told me my first call was way out of town in a rough, run-down area, I didn't think much of it at first. But looking back, it didn't feel like a coincidence. The call was simple, a leaky pipe under the sink, basic job, usually quick money. When I pulled up to the address, my stomach sank. The house looked abandoned, paint peeling, windows dirty, the yard completely dead. It didn't look like anyone had lived there in years. I knocked. After a few seconds, a middle-aged man opened the door. I didn't like him immediately. He had this wide, unnatural smile stretched across his face, too wide for how small his eyes were. It made his whole expression look wrong. And when he spoke, his voice was soft and high-pitched, not matching his appearance at all. He welcomed me inside. The house was empty. No couch, no chairs, no table, nothing. "Just move in?" I asked. "Yeah," he said, then giggled. Not laughed, giggled. He led me to the kitchen. I set my tools on the counter and got down to check under the sink. I examined the P-trap, checked the lock nuts, looking for anything loose or cracked. That's when I noticed something. He was standing directly over me. His legs were spread wide, and I was basically between his feet while I was under the sink. It was uncomfortable. I politely asked him to give me some space. He stepped back, but barely, still too close. After a minute, I realized something else. There was no water leaking at all. I slid back out and turned the faucet on. Nothing. No water. I looked at him. Why isn't the water running? He smiled and said he must have accidentally shut off the main water valve. I just stared at him. How do you accidentally shut off the main valve? He shrugged, still smiling. I asked him to turn it back on. He said, "Be right back." He walked out of the kitchen. Then I heard footsteps going upstairs. I froze. I've worked around plumbing long enough to know one thing. Main water valves are not upstairs. And then I heard something worse. More footsteps, multiple sets, coming down the stairs quickly. That was it. No hesitation, no second thoughts. I grabbed my tools and walked fast, not running, straight out the front door and into my van. I'm a big guy. I don't scare easy. But something about that house, that man, the empty rooms, the fake smile, it felt planned. I looked back at the house for a second. The door was still open. Then I drove away. I called Dave and told him it had to be a prank call. That sounded better than admitting I felt like I was about to be set up for something bad. Later, I did some digging. The house? Vacant, abandoned. The phone number used to request the job? A voice-over IP number, completely untraceable. I reported the whole thing to the local police just so they were aware of it. I don't know if they ever did anything about that house. I never went back to that part of town again, and I only worked for that plumbing company for about a year after that. To this day, I still wonder, what would have happened if I stayed under that sink just a little longer?
Like and subscribe.
Back in 2019, I worked for Domino's. It was my first night on the job. I only took the position because I needed money for college supplies and things for my dorm. That night, I was still being trained. When you're new, the manager rides along on your first few deliveries to evaluate you and show you how things are done. Around 8 p.m., we got an order: 4 large pizzas and 2 bottles of Pip. At the time, our store wasn't fully electronic like most are now. We didn't have a big screen showing delivery locations. We had to look up directions ourselves on our phones. We loaded the order into my car since I was the one being evaluated. It was me, my manager, and another new trainee I didn't really know. The address was way out of town, deep into an older, more rural part of the area. It wasn't unusual to drive miles without seeing another house, but this one felt especially isolated. It took about 15 to 20 minutes to reach it. When we finally pulled up, my stomach dropped. The house looked ancient. 2 stories, paint peeling, wood chipping, and several windows boarded up. It didn't look like a place anyone should be living in. I remember asking my manager if we really had to walk up there. He said yes, but he'd be the one to hand over the pizzas and drinks. I hesitated before getting out of the car. The other trainee looked just as nervous. As we started walking toward the front door, he whispered that he thought he saw someone watching us from the upstairs window, the one farthest from the porch. The manager brushed it off and told us we were just overthinking it. He said it would take a minute, maybe 2, and reminded us to stay calm and be polite. I don't know how I managed to ring the doorbell, but I did. It didn't work. So my manager knocked, hard, no answer. We waited about 15 seconds and knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. That's when we noticed the smell, something rotten. It was faint at first, but definitely there. We couldn't tell if it was coming from inside the house or somewhere outside, but it made all of us uncomfortable. After about a minute of standing there, the door slowly opened. Not all the way, just enough for part of a man's face to appear. He asked who we were and what we wanted. My manager told him we had his pizza. Almost instantly, the man unlocked the door completely and swung it open, suddenly acting friendly, almost too friendly. The switch in his behavior was unsettling. He looked to be in his 50s at least. He claimed it took him a while to answer because it was hard for him to get around. My manager handed him the receipt and asked if he was paying with cash or check. The man said he'd be right back with the money. and he left the door open. Out of curiosity, I glanced inside. The house was completely empty. No furniture, no decorations, nothing. Just bare floors and a couple of blankets scattered around. It was obvious the place wasn't properly lived in. Then we heard it. Footsteps from upstairs. More than one person. My heart dropped because the other trainee's comments suddenly didn't sound paranoid anymore. Someone had probably been watching us as we walked up. My manager called out, asking if the man had the money yet. No response. The footsteps stopped. Everything went silent. You could hear our breathing in the night air. My manager told us to stay by the front door in case the man came back. He said he was going to walk around to the back of the house to see if the guy needed help. The two of us just nodded. As soon as he disappeared around the corner, we heard footsteps again, but not from upstairs. They sounded like they were coming from below us somehow. We both looked at each other, confused and uneasy. Then we heard our manager scream. Not yell, scream. A second later, we heard frantic running. He came sprinting from the side of the house and shouted at us to get back in the car immediately, that we were leaving. I've never driven so fast in my life. Once we were far enough away, he explained what happened. When he walked around to the back of the house, he saw a faint light in the darkness. It looked like a small makeshift campfire. As he got closer, he saw a group of men sitting around it, and in the middle of them was a baby deer. They were laughing at it, just sitting there, laughing. The second he realized what he was looking at, he turned and ran. The other trainee and I quit shortly after. I heard the manager left about a month later. I never worked another delivery job again, and to this day, I can't shake the feeling that we walked into something we were never meant to see.